happen.
Alright guys, we're back to more Disco Elysium.
I thought he was,
Continuing on from where I left off.
Why would you tell her that someone's gonna go for her? Like, I feel
did we go in here?
bad move, for you, man. I don't know why he'd do it, but also Kylan doesn't mind the conversations. So I feel like he'll be okay with having lots of these conversations, but maybe he's okay with it. It was fun. As an outsider, I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Yeah, I feel like.
Well, if only I didn't already spend the $20 though.
He tricked Sarah Beth last week. He's been talking all week long about like, nobody should feel foolish about him. Like I think he's desperately trying to, even after the fact, even now that it's becoming very clear that she made a mistake, trying to convince her that she didn't make a mistake because he knows that he's the one that convinced her to make the mistake. And he's trying to still be like, no, we did I convinced you to do the right thing. It's just, unlucky, I guess. And really just trying to pump her up as much as possible. So he goes to, Sarah Beth tries talking to Alyssa and Xavier. Kylan tries talking to Alyssa and Xavier.
Why is this taking so long? Thank you.
They don't want anything to do with them at this point. Kylan's like, we need to stick together for now and just bank on, hey, somebody else
on the table. We see a bowl of water,
and then maybe, we won't even have to worry about Tiffany's situation. And until then, I would recommend we don't do anything.
The sharp blade chafes against your
just, we can deal with what Tiffany might do after we know it will actually stick, right? So maybe don't throw me and Sarah Beth under the bus, please, is the message here. And then after he leaves, Alyssa and Xavier are like,
on the table.
Yeah, we're fine. Our life is fine, and as it should be. Again,
you see your reflection.
Take the week off.
The expression.
Kylan, you must be tired. 2 weeks of raining over the house.
And then we'll do this.
The week off won't be bad for you, trust me. Just do that.
One of the two of them has to go. Alyssa makes fun of Sarah Beth, like
an image on film.
I don't care about the reload.
Sarah Beth impressions over the course of the night. I think I'd probably give the crown. Tiffany's is not very good. I'd give the crown to Alyssa myself. I think she's the best at it.
That's always a good sign too of who's about to leave when people are just freely doing the impressions of them. It's usually a good sign that they're not long for the game. So everyone's pretty much, the decision's been done. I would have to listen to them for the rest of the week. I'll give you my official answer of who had the best impression next week. Let me get a full week of this, and then we'll go.
Alyssa also, though, making fun of her own game, saying, I've probably been bought out of my own business at this point, with people seeing the terrible logic that I spout out every day. Here I am, like, plugging Molly Bird, and, like, they're like, it's not even your business anymore, idiot. She was on a roll.
Yeah. The thing is, the good news is, Alyssa, and trust me, your business will not be affected by your decisions in game. There's a lot of successful businesses built on the backs of poor gameplay in the Big Brother house, so you'll be fine. Don't
don't do anything bad.
So that's the worst thing. Don't do anything. Yeah.
Your poor logic is fine. Tiffany is going to talk with
some new sales at Best Buy.
Sarah Beth comes back up to Tiffany and talks with Kylan. She says, okay, I've thought about it.
Yeah, it's all stuff I already own or things I'm just not that interested in.
I don't want you to think that I'm actually with Alyssa and because I am not. I don't actually know where they stand in this game. I don't actually trust them. I've never trusted Alyssa.
Wait, that's just a bench.
I told Hannah. She told Hannah about me coming after her. She said that she said that she doesn't trust me. I've heard that she tried to vote against me when I was in the block. I know that she tried to throw me under the bus when I was up against Christian. I know that she also, by the way, tried to claim that you had a really big reaction when Derek lost EHOH last week. I have no loyalty to her. In fact, Big D just told Kylan that Alyssa told him that she wants me out this week. So I do not like her or trust her at all. And the sad part about this for Sarah Beth is that all of this is true, and she knew all of this, and she didn't trust Alyssa, and then she was talked out of making that move last week by Kylan. She says, the reason I didn't think it would be smart to go against her last week because I thought it was too likely that her and Xavier would win safety, and then look, they did. Right. I think I made
They don't actually care about the story.
But if you wanted to take the shot right now, I would support you to do that shot. And so, look, I know that I took Derek out this week, but that wasn't against you or Claire in any way. And just so you know, I did have a final three with Derek X. So he was where I know you think you had Derek X. He was actually working with us as well.
Oh, fuck off.
When Claire went on the block, it wasn't like, oh, don't put Claire on the block. It was like, oh, well, it's not me, right? Like, he only cared about himself. He wasn't protecting anybody. And so, you're right. I don't think he was coming for me, but I felt like I had to make a decision moving forward with either you and Tiffany, or sorry, you and Claire, or moving forward with Derek X. And so, last week for me, it was all about winning, building trust with you and Claire. And that's what I wanted to, that was my goal for the week, is that I wanted to move forward with you and Claire. And so that's really what I was trying to accomplish last week. And Tiffany's like, yeah, I just don't know why you and Colin both put Claire up on the block 2 weeks in a row, though, if that was the intent there. I don't really understand it, but and Tiffany at this point is leaning even more heavily toward Kylan, trying to now convince Sarah Beth that Kylan is more the target than Sarah Beth herself. But this conversation obviously not going well for Sarah Beth as she rambles on, and Tiffany is just like, you say you wanted to work with me and Claire, but Claire has hit the block twice in a row from you and Kylan. And I just don't really understand that. And Kylan's whole thing about like nominating her, throwing the veto so that he can use the veto was nonsense. And she's like, yeah. And so it's not gonna work.
Yeah, I had forgotten about the whole throwing the veto to gain the veto to gain trust thing. That was a very good thing to bring up in front of Sarah Beth to maybe try and convince her that Kylan's the one. That was not a good look. I completely forgot about that. But no, I mean, this is was kind of like sad to see, because Sarah Beth's gonna try everything, but I know it's falling on deaf ears, and it's not even good arguments. Like, it's not like I can be like, well, the argument's good, but they don't want to work. It's not a good argument. It's all over the place. At the end of the day, you put Claire up, and you evicted, you got Baby D evicted. So there's no and I don't see the benefit of being like, well, I had a thing with DX. You didn't know about this, so clearly, like, he was that's not gonna work. She just said you took her legs out of the game. You cannot win this argument. This is not a good argument. And then don't do it in your King shirt. I know that Tiffany doesn't care about the Kings or the teams. They've joked about how the Jokers are the only ones holding on to these titles. But just, why are you wearing your King shirt at this point? It's not this point.
So Azza talks to Big D while this conversation is happening. And she's just talking about, like, she's like, Xavier said he likes my hair, and anyway, both, no matter how it happened. She's like, I'm so delusional. X just gives me something to do in this house, and I trust him. And then she says, if X hadn't have been upstairs, I would have just grabbed Tiffany and said, let's flip this mother effer, and I would have kept Derek. I really think we should have kept Derek.
Yeah, and so Azza, earlier in the day, there was,
those are the guys, right? Yeah, it's just, why is it so zoomed in?
And Azza was pretty much like, I'm not going to do it. And then as Derek X leaves the room, regret this, 3 days. First it was 2 weeks, then it was 3 days, then immediate regret.
Oh, can we not go there?
She was down, and it's so funny that ultimately what made it so that Derek X was destined to leave is that no one wanted to flip on Xavier. No one wanted Xavier to be blindsided for not being there. So that didn't help. And again, I feel bad for DX, but also it is what it is. But it was it's cute that, the hope is alive for Azza with this middle school crush. She still believes, it's giving her a distraction, which is nice.
So Kylan is going to talk to Tiffany after.
Fuck is this?
Sarah Beth. He says, hey, I was talking to Big D and he's worried that
Hello again. Oh, this guy.
To afford Point of Destiny.
Okay. Well,
money last week, and oh well, apparently Derek X told Big D that Claire got 100. She's like, oh no, that's not true. Why would she tell Derek X to not handle why would Derek X tell Big D and not Hannah about that information? True, right? Obviously, Claire didn't get a hunting, so don't worry about that. Great applying to Kylan here, trying to vouch for Claire not having the money. I don't know exactly what her motivation is for it, but
that's the dead body. Alright.
I don't know.
Listen, Ted. You see, trick.
Ah, shit. Now I'm into.
It's hard.
If she was to declare this to be fact, it's a thing that she has kept to herself, and therefore now.
Alright, I think once we're done exploring this area, I think we might just like literally waste time. Because wait, why can't I go back up? Oh, it's over here. Because at that point I don't know what to do outside of wait for the guy at 9 o'clock.
The surface is smooth. This cheap, it'll be easier to break the staple than the loop.
There you go,
Also,
Sarabeth,
that stick you see a yellow. There is something blinding you. It's the contrast between.
No. Looks like a dead man smiling. For Revash, these acts aren't called crimes as they would be for adults. I haven't seen that sticker before, and I'm not a youth. That level of conceptual thinking is not part of my skill set.
And she also tells Kylan, could you
The
also
padlock.
stop
Should
giving
you want?
Maybe we should circle.
points
Yes.
to argue
There's
with me
something
about,
on
like,
the
I
same
can
price
hear
there.
your words in what she's saying, and I don't want to have to deal with your points.
Which he does do quite a bit. He primed her up to when before the talks happened earlier in the
What?
night, and then later again. He
Oh,
talked
that's
to her a little bit.
bullshit.
I don't think
Hands
he
you
can
a
help
blue
himself.
handkerchief.
He's just, that's who
He
is.
looks a
There to
little
help. He's there to
dismayed when
give her some
there's nothing
information.
like the sound.
But it was so
Looks
funny
like
because
today was a
he
gold
has
star
been doing
day.
that, and I really do love the relationship between Kylan and him, because I love how she openly
Magnesium
roasts
based
him and
life
then
form.
also says things like this to him. It very much pleases me.
We tell them, hell no.
So, Kylan
the
talks to
magnesium
Sarabeth
based
after
life
this, they
form.
compare notes.
The
He's
age
like, I
of the
definitely think
primitive
we're going
carbon
up. He's
man
like, really?
is done. No longer must mankind rely on slow
And he says, well,
working
I think
background
I'm the
radiation
target.
to take us further into our genetic
And Sarabeth's like, well, I
wooden
don't
doors
understand. Why
more
wouldn't
than
she put
twice your
Alyssa
height
up?
stand
Because
shut.
Alyssa definitely can't win the coin. So, like, why wouldn't you put Alyssa up to guarantee that they can't take themselves down with the coin? It's like, yeah, because not everybody plays based on the twist. They play based on the game that they have. And also, you're not going to be able to afford the coin, Sarah. And he says, don't worry, you did do a really good job. You did so good. And you know,
Heavy
it's
wooden
okay.
doors
You did
more
a
than
really good
twice
job.
your height stand
8%.
shut in front of you.
One thing that
The
did happen in the
rectangles,
conversation
a
with
minute
Tiffany
I'm
and Kylan
not as...
is that
The doors
Tiffany also
remain
related to Kylan,
unchanged.
hey,
Yeah,
if you can throw the veto
that's
to
what I
X,
said.
throw that veto to X. I would like for X to get removed. I don't want to replace somebody.
Yes, she asks. Yeah, she wants
over here again?
him to not win because if he wins, she has to put Big D up on the block. Not ideal. So if he could just do her a favor and throw the veto for her while he's on the block, that'd be
That's
great.
decent amount of money.
Yeah, that was great. I did enjoy that.
old
So
door,
we'll see.
worn
Well, I
by
mean,
elements,
here's the
guards
thing.
the deck.
Kylan's not good
The
at
wind
throwing
has
subtly,
blown
so
a
we'll see if
sand dune in
another
front of it.
repeat happens
The
and he
door
makes it
hasn't
very
been opened
obvious.
in the
Oh
last
man,
explain
if
it to
Kylan
Sarabeth.
obviously throws the veto when he's on the
You
block
rattle the
against
handle shift,
Sarabeth,
then push on the door.
that would
We
be
don't get in there.
that'd be great.
Frankly,
Sarabeth.
you're...
I mean, he'd probably just be able to be
We've
like,
gotten
no,
into
Sarabeth,
every
you don't
door
understand. I
thus
did it
far.
for us.
That's what we
And
do.
she'd be like, oh,
We
okay.
open doors. We're
But
hot.
I think
Yeah, relax.
Claire and Alyssa
At
might
least
be
you
like,
can think
what?
about opening it.
It would be very hard to defend that one because at least with the other one, it's like, well, if you wanted to protect Claire, you could have still given her the veto. But like you're doing, I mean, why'd you give it to Alyssa? He still got a veto out of it. He's not going to get a second veto out of this one, so it would look very bad. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm actually really wanting him to do it sloppily now. I think that's my ideal situation here, is to watch him stumble it.
Yeah, I don't think he's actually going to do it, veto. But But here we go. That's what we're looking at. Tiffany will be nominating Kyland and Sarah Beth very soon, I imagine, here on the feeds. And then we are going to get the high roller twist once again. Now, again, if it is possible that some people get $0, then we are looking at Big D still as the only person who is 100% locked in for the Coin of Destiny. Hannah will need to get at least $50 to be able, from the envelope, to be able to afford the Coin of Destiny, or get $100 from the audience, which means that basically Hannah needs $100 total, which means she needs, she needs either 100 from the envelope or 100 from the audience, or some combo from both. Claire needs 150 in total, so she's going to need either 75 from the audience and 75 from the envelope, or 100 from the audience and 50 from the envelope, or vice versa, which is some combination of those things. She needs both, though. She cannot get 0 from the envelope, or she will not be able to afford the Coin of Destiny. Then you have Azza, who also needs $150 to afford. So she's in a similar position, although she is a lot less likely to get the 75 or 100, which means she probably needs 100 from the envelope to hit that Coin of Destiny slot. And then, of course, after that, you have Sarah Beth and Highland, neither of which are very likely to be able to afford the Coin of Destiny, because you expect either of them to hit $100 from the audience, which is what they would need, because they both need $200 full to get to that 250 mark. So there you go. That's what we're looking at here for all of that. I would expect if Big D gets the Coin of Destiny that he would just keep the noms the same, because that's what he intended to do. If Hannah got it, she would keep the noms the same. If Azza got it, she would keep the noms the same. If Claire gets it, she will probably just keep the noms the same. But small chance she might do something a little bit weird with it. Maybe, if she really wanted to be tricky, and maybe,
what the fuck is going on
she's totally cool with Sarah Beth leaving, because Sarah Beth did just put her and Derek X on the block. But if she really wanted to be tricky, she could maybe replace Sarah Beth with Big D, and then it would be interesting. But I do not expect that to happen here. So that's what we're looking at.
Real quick, if the veto is used and the Coin of Destiny person has won the reigns, do they replace the nominee?
Maybe.
We still don't know. Now, the way that Big D talked about it is that he was assuming that the original HOH controlled the renom, but I again don't know if that's coming from actual information or if it's coming from just assumption. I would assume that the original HOH controls the renom, but
this
you just don't know.
is a portable
If I'm not going to trust Hannah's knowledge in Big Brother, I'm sure as hell going to take it with a grain of salt when Big D's the one telling me about it. So we'll wait and see what the actual rules are for this.
Yeah, I record stuff with it.
Alright,
no.
so
This is
that's
a
what we have for
point
today.
microphone.
Puya, anything else that you want to bring up?
Last one, comical one of the theme of the night. So right after the feeds came on, Hannah was about to go get DX's hoodie to wear it, and she was like, I'm not about to look like Gina Marie. And then later, during the very deep conversation they were having with Tiffany, she also had a similar comment. So it makes me happy to know that Hannah's aware that one could end up looking like Gina Marie, and I love that she's like, I'm not about to do that. That's not me at all. Ultimately, even if she wore the hoodie, she wouldn't seem like that, because we're talking 50-some days of friendship versus, 2 weeks of one-sided crush from Gina Marie. So that's something I wanted to bring up, is that I like that she was very hyper-aware of how she might look given her reactions to DX.
Yeah, in the middle of her sobbing, she's like, damn it, I'm gonna look like Gina Marie.
I don't really know
it's like,
Take this. You're cool.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, you're safe. You're safe.
It's okay.
But it is, hey, it's a time-tested tradition of, it's, people, there are lots of examples of people being very upset when somebody leaves. She just has to make a shrine with his photo and maybe some
They got
like,
too much
some of
stuff,
his
Crow.
things.
Music stuff mostly.
So,
Like
his
the-
sweatshirt,
yeah,
that, there you
They
go,
were
that
pretty.
would be,
That stuff is more
not Gina
expensive
Marie
than I am.
necessarily, but yeah,
More expensive than any of us,
friendship,
really.
It's probably
you know,
amphetamine.
when Jesse left
I've got
in
my
BB11,
recordings to do. I feel
like,
bad.
we got some good
And
examples.
who
Oh my
Yeah.
god, yeah.
and
We
why is
definitely
that?
have had
She
those
looks
in the
back
past.
at her.
Go
All
ahead.
right, so that's what we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going
It's
to
supposed
be
to accept
live
that-
with Rob
Yeah. You know,
later
another
in just
project.
about an hour and
Music
a half.
that's made with a
Patron
synthesizer.
group, if you wanted
This
to
is an
call
evil
in
I
for
know.
the patron
It's
Q&A.
not my... Hey,
And ask some questions,
Don't get
chat
me-
with us.
okay,
We have a lot of
well.
fun there. I'm sure there's plenty to talk
Oh.
about this
Hey,
week.
no,
And then
not really.
tomorrow morning,
She's
11 a.m.
trying
Eastern,
to
I'll
get
tell you
out of the
what happens
direct
today
line
on the Big
with
Brother
the-
23 Live,
It's noise.
including what happens with these nominations,
Yeah,
then
I
what
guess
happens
you
with
could
this
say
high
that.
roller twist.
To
Who
keep more weirdos
ends up
from getting
getting
in.
the coin of
Go
destiny,
ahead.
whether or not it lands correctly, and whether or not anything actually even changes
Okay.
if it does. So plenty, I'm sure,
I'll
to
see if I can
talk
get
about there. And
this
then,
thing.
yeah, just keep watching, keep listening. You can find me on
Hello
Twitch,
again.
twitch.tv/Terran,
The fight is still
or
warm
on
for
Twitter
the
at
tough
Terran.
and
Yeah, where
heavy
can
as
you
a
find
brick
me?
from the
You
batteries
can find me on
inside.
Twitter at Puyaism
The company
and
logo on the
twitch.tv/Puya. I'll be back tonight
She
at
looks
11
you
p.m.
up.
with the
Nothing
pad
to
over on
be
Twitch. That'll be
made
fun. And then obviously
You
we'll
put
be
the
doing
device
Among
back
Us
on the
again,
device.
2 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. Back with the 15-person lobby. Should be delightful. Always random. Always chaos. Always fun over on Twitch. And as far as podcasting goes, 90 Day Fiancé, part 2 of the tell-all, is done and dusted. I talked about it with Liana Boris on Monday. And this upcoming week, 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way starts. The new season is going to begin. I will be having Asia on to talk with me. And last plug of the week for my podcasting, I did get together with Sasha Joseph and Chappelle to talk Never Have I Ever over on their podcast on Silent Podcast Network. So definitely go check that out as well. And
yeah,
it
that's
should be a
next
fun
day,
weekend
right?
of feats. I'm very excited. Today's going to be a lot of fun seeing all the envelopes play out, the money play out. So just enjoy yourselves. Everyone have a good weekend.
Ooh,
Yes,
that's a lot.
and now I'm seeing that the goodbye messages have finally been released
Ooh.
here. I obviously have not had a chance to watch them myself, but I am reading that Kyland did not out the cookout, but that he said that he's been working with a group since week 1 that is essentially been running the game. So he basically outed the cookout without saying what the cookout was or who was in it. And this is the first even hint of a mention here. I guess Derek X was trying to guess who that group might be, and he was very wrong about it. But I imagine that Derek X will be going to the jury with
The pain of
this
eating right has
information,
been
and they will be
planted into the
speculating.
snow.
And
Barely.
once the cookout is revealed,
It looks like
Kylan
the
will
pain
be the
falls
person
into the
who
icy
has,
snow
sort
with a
of,
soft
talked about it first now. So he's really he's trying to follow the letter of the law here. He didn't reveal the cookout, but he hinted at it. So we'll see how that works out.
It's kind of like the sadly to a vote equivalent of mentioning the curse. Well, I didn't say it. I just said it was a big alliance from the first week. I didn't say it. So he could get away with that. But we'll see. I think that, obviously the rest of the cookout will be mad if they find out that there was an inkling thrown in there by Kyle, because they're not gonna have the transcript.
Oh fuck! I went back here.
We'll see.
All right.
Oh no, this
That's
is where I'm
thank
trying to
you
go.
guys so much
Never
for
mind.
joining us here today, and I will see all of you.
All right, so that's it for the podcast. We got time-wise 23 minutes. To be honest, I feel like this is a good game to be playing when you have a podcast on, so let's just turn this
You
on.
need some protection, and with Luke in 2019,
Australian
I was like,
Survivor.
he got himself as such a huge
should
threat to
be.
Final 7, and now he needs to win out, and that is a really legitimate strategy in this exceptionally long game of Australian Survivor. And
So it's
her
7
kind of
o'clock, so
going
I still
is
need
gonna
2
get
more
to
hours.
Possibly a
So
final
it could
2
be
or
a
3, which
thing.
is something we could talk about, but get through these last votes with pure rounds that the US doesn't have, without fire at 4 that we're hoping they don't do. You gotta win some challenges. You really do need protection down the stretch when there are smaller numbers and you have a target on your back.
Yeah, and I mean, Emmett's describing that group of 5 to her, where there's 3 brawn,
A
right?
row of ghosts
3
of
brawn, 2
shade
brain.
facing
She's
crime.
unlikely to win out against
A
Emmett.
host of men.
How does she get
They
herself to the end in that group?
Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great pitch from Emmett being go with all the strongest people and then we'll fight it out physically. It's not a deal I would really want to take. And I feel like it really pushed her away, because we see that conversation where she and Way are talking. She does seem much more let's vote out Emmett. And Way seems more like doesn't want to work with George, which I feel like I've seen this film before. And then I feel like for Emma to come in and offer her like a bad deal, and to offer her for Way a really bad deal where Way's not even a part of that, like she can go back to Way and be like, you're literally not even part of the bad deal I was offered. Like we have to vote out Emma now.
It's good.
Yeah, completely. It's actually probably the biggest misstep that we've seen from Emma in a long time, is describing this to Hayley in that way. Like, he almost needed to be like, we'll stay as voting blocks, let's just get rid of George, who's throwing this chaos into the game, and then, you know, you've got your people here, I've got my people, and we'll move forward. But, like, I think focusing too far into the future there with Hayley was a bad move for him.
Yeah, he should have read that Hayley wouldn't want to do that because it is, as we're saying, like a logically bad plan. And that, like, you know, it's a good plan for him. That's why he's liking it. He's like, let's all go as the physical threats. Like, you as peak alpha physical threat. Like, that's a great plan for you. Like, you might win out, even with, like, the best other contenders there with you, and you'll have protection and shields, and you'll have a lot of your own allies and Flick and Andrew and people you've been working with. Like, why would Hayley want to go with that? So I feel like he wasn't thinking from her perspective of, like, why would she want to go with that? And maybe she just did a good enough job of being like so anti-George and Kara that he was like, it's not even really about that. I'm giving some like medium to long-term plan, but for the short term, we're all definitely going anti-George because that's been like such a strong sentiment in this episode.
Yeah. I mean, it was the right move for Emma in that was the right direction for him to go. I just think he needed to have a different front for Hayley as to how they were why they were going that way.
Yes, I would agree. And another reason that Emmett goes home, because they split the vote so badly. Just again, something that it's just the fact that it would screw someone like Andrew over twice in 2 votes is hilarious to me, because it feels like to us we see that he like just started playing and it's going like very poorly. But like again, like to have to ask Way was hilarious. But even like if someone just had the foresight to kind of know the strategy, even like an Emmett or an Andrew or anyone in that group who comes back from this car reward that they've all been on, it's like a pretty strong 4. And Andrew seems to trust Way and Hayley, obviously erroneously, but like he seems to have trust there. But that 4 is so strong. Like in what world do A need to ask how to split a vote? And also, aren't you saying, okay guys, we're splitting the vote 4 to 2 to 2. Our 4 are like on George. Our 4 who are at the Rord, who are like such a strong block, who are like clearly immovable. We're putting a plurality of 4 of 8 on George, and you guys are splitting 2 on Kara, and you depower those possible swing votes, which obviously was being misread, but they are swing votes. Like Emmett's trying to pull Hayley over, but he's also put her on the powerful George vote. No, you put your 4 block on the George vote, and then they can't flip because they have nowhere to move, and you've like absolutely just cornered them into this position.
Yeah, look, I'm allowed to laugh at this because I was burned by it myself. It matters who goes where on the split. Can't say it enough.
Mm-hmm. And it's being used as well by Way and Hayley.
Yeah, and Hayley, I love Hayley, was so deliberate about it, wasn't she? She's like, I want to write down George's name.
I really want to vote down George's name just because I'm like kind of a vengeful player, not because it would give me like a lot more strategic agency in this vote. It's not really about that. And Way, I think as well, like I don't know how much is coming from her, but like I think even the fact that they could look to her as like a little bit of, you know, someone teaching them what a split vote is, but like as someone who's leading this in a way, like it gives her the power to be like, all right, well, it's random or it's more diverse in that way, and that gives them that power, and they both very much acknowledge it when they're talking that they could go either way because of the way the split has gone. And I think if they weren't looking to Way themselves, or if they were leading it in someone like an Andrew and an Emmett, then they wouldn't have given them that power. So it's like credit to Hayley for pushing to want George, it's credit to Way to even being looked at in that way, that they can make this a more interesting split vote for themselves due to like their own good gameplay and due to like mistakes that are being made by the other members of the alliance.
Now that we have money, I just want to see what's around.
Very much so. So Danny's reward choice, which I want to talk about, like I liked it at first. She has so many relationships to reconcile, but in hindsight, they were the 4 left out of the vote. So like, how do you look at that choice now?
I need the song.
I think they were the right people for her to bring. I think it was a no-brainer. She needed to be taken.
Yes.
The antlers on the
I mean, who else? I'd love to see
Andrew. Yeah.
Walking away.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking about who else would have been better to take. Like if I were Danny. It's really hard for me to be Danny though.
I don't care actually.
I think she was right in taking them, at least in that they did then stick together. Like she'd been pretty left out previously, and now she's got at least these 4 people who were clearly voting with her. So she read that right.
I mean, it's like it's a win and it's a loss. Like they all vote with her, but they also lose the vote. You know, like so. I mean, I liked it at the time because I'm like she's reconciling with Flick and with Emmett and bringing Andrew in. But I think possibly with the benefit of hindsight, I don't know if it's results oriented, but I don't know that you need Emmett. Like he's so desperate anyway, and he's going where Flick does, and he and George are just oil and water. Like if you take away Haley and leave Emmett and George back at camp, like you know nothing is happening with the four back at camp because you are leaving four people together, four people who eventually get on the same page. Like I think you have to leave people who will never get on the same page, and then you're coming back with your strong four hopefully, and then other people who are just not a block against you. So I think in hindsight, like I get what she was going with, and I definitely think she's done a good job since that first vote of like reconciling relationships. Much like the Simon vote is quite similar to me in like, okay, that didn't go so well, but then she was much more informed than I thought she would be last week, and I gave her cheesy votes for it. And like through this week as well, reconciling those relationships, recreating something I thought was really good, but I just think possibly those four that she left did end up winning the vote. Like that's not a great look in the end.
Okay.
I don't think that's her fault though.
Can I go down here?
I mean, I think that it was partly Emmett's cell that was the problem with Haley and Way.
True.
I don't think that bringing Haley would make any difference to what Haley did. Just don't think she's that kind of player. Maybe including Way would have been important because Way doesn't want to work with George and Kara. I guess that. And I mean, maybe that was, I don't know if she was very aware of that, but maybe that was the thought of leaving.
I think, like, who else? Like, the only person I can think of that we haven't talked to in a while is Claire.
Just clearly
but
burned bridges before
so
with
far
George.
That
Yeah,
is
same
no
way
way.
Kara in the same scene, no idea what they think about
I
each
think
other.
we talked to every other person.
How would we know?
Somewhere recently.
Exactly, no idea what they think. But yeah, I don't think it would have made any difference to be honest. Maybe bring Way instead of Emmett.
I don't know that it necessarily changes things. I don't think that I'd call it her fault, but there's possibly like something to prevent here. And I do agree, it's probably a Way thing because Haley doesn't necessarily need the time or the relationships. Like she's making the move she's gonna make based on the deals she's presented with. But like Way might care about this type of thing. She seems to really care about like bonding with people, which is important. You know, even just like turning against George earlier in the season, it was like he's treating me badly, other people may be treating me better. Even with worse deals, like she cared about those relationships. I don't know how much that carries that much further down the season, but I think there are possibly bridges that could have been built through that, and you know, not leaving her necessarily with Kara and George might have been a good thing.
I do feel like what we see of Way is that she wants to go with the majority. She's real. I think she's a clever woman and she's able to see the dynamics, but she just seems to want to move with a large group, don't you think?
I mean, she literally has, and even in this vote, as we're saying, like, she seemed more that she wanted to go with voting out George, and that would have been with the majority, that she was more on the bottom of than Haley, who wanted to flip. And it's something we've seen before, like, yeah, I don't think that she needs to, like, put herself in great with the numbers. I think she's, like, she seems like more of a vibe type of player, where she, like, just enjoys this more, and she doesn't enjoy the vibe of George, and hasn't for a long time, and is, like, happy to put herself more on the bottom just to not be around that. And I think there's, like, there's something there. There's something to playing the game with people you're comfortable with that you're not always nervous of playing with, which she clearly is with George. But I think, like, when push comes to shove, like, you want good numbers, especially when you're going into what will be a final seven. Like, you don't want to be 6 in that.
Yeah. And I think, like, maybe we're just reading into too much of what Way is not saying, but she seems like someone who really likes predictability and stability. And that's, like, the anti-George.
Yes. In hindsight, hilarious that they were so linked so early. They are like such opposite people. They were like not meant to be allies.
But I think that's exactly what Way was thinking back then when she was like, how am I with you right now? Like, this is not me. Take me to Laura. Take me to, like, you know, the Georgia, like these logical, cool-headed people, and instead she's with George as he, like, commando crawls through the grass.
Yeah, just because they were both outsiders, but like such different outsiders for such different reasons. Like, just because, you know, it's not like just because they had the same enemies and not necessarily should have been friends. I mean, George, I think, really felt it, but I think, like, their really tenuous connection throughout the season is such an interesting thread to try and half follow with the zero confessionals from Way. But the point that, like, they're so connected, and then she turns on him, and they've come back now, and now her decision here to go with Haley, like, saves his life in the game again. Again, after the Joey vote, and that is just ridiculous to me for a lot of really interesting story reasons.
And I think a lot of times, because we only hear things from George, but George will often mention Wei as someone who's important to his game.
Oh,
like,
that is
he'll be
Gary.
like, no, there's Wei. Wei is important to me. And Wei's like,
yeah, he does it at the carver. Like, she wants to work for Wei, and he's like, Laura. Like, the fact that they save possibly each other. I mean, he would have been the one to play the idol and destroy Wei, but he also saves her from himself. And they do it within the space of 2 episodes. Like, George and Wei is such an interesting relationship, and I wish we could get more from Wei, because that dynamic is fascinating to me. And of course we get it from the George side, but like, we haven't heard from Wei in several episodes. She's been strategically key, and from a story perspective, it's just so interesting for such a long-term relationship in this game.
Yeah, it's a great long arc. Unfortunately, I think when we actually see it, it's going to be, you know, we might get a Wei package, and you know what the Wei package would mean.
That she's going home in 20 minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Tara and Peter from your season, where it was like, that was such an interesting relationship, and if you track the votes, they were like together and apart, and they both end up in the top 3, and we just heard so little from Peter that I'm like, this could have been even more interesting from a character perspective. And I think it's interesting to me. It's similar in that way that I feel like I'm saying Wei a lot, you know, when because you know, it's just a difficult one. But she, like, I think that we could have really gotten a lot of juice from that story, and in 2 episodes,
You know
when
what,
George
let's just save here. I think we'll end.
him and how relevant
I'll
that
do
is to
another
so much
episode,
of the
but
season, we don't even hear from her, and that is
thanks for
bad
watching.
production.